My name is Gabe. A while back I talked about a book called The Minders. My review can be seen up here if you'd like to watch. If you'd like to see it, but to summarize it, the review is negative. I didn't like the book. But there's something about the book, its core concept, that I wanted to talk about, mainly because the book doesn't. So the whole concept of the book is that in order to protect the British government's secrets from hackers, it's planted into the brains of several mostly ordinary people. Which, as a concept, sounds interesting. But the book horribly squanders it. But I decided I want today to kind of give the concept a lot more thought than the author of that book did, and try and figure out how best to implement such a program in real life. So, first off, I'm going to basically start off by giving as blanket opinions as I can, and then slowly add on details that were in the book to get us closer to the book, and see if at any point the book made a smart choice with how to handle this program. Or at least a logical one. First off, would it ever make sense to run this program at all? No. This program is awful. We invented computers to store information because humans are inherently bad at it. We can't do it. So, just starting there, why? But okay, fair enough. Okay, if we had to, how would we do it? That's your question, right? Okay. I'll answer that. If it is utterly essential to store information on people, first and foremost, we would want to store them on people whose interests are aligned with our own. The best way to do that is, if we are the government, to use our own staff. Heck, our very own selves. Who'd want to leak the government's secrets? Who'd be more invested in avoiding the government's secrets leaking? The government. Oh. So, that's step one. Okay, we can't. We have to do it on other citizens because of weird qualifications that our staff and our big government bigwigs do not qualify for. Okay. Before we jump in any farther, I have to say, everything I'm saying here implies an unethical government, because there is no way to be willing to do any of this if your government is even an ounce bit ethical. Alright? Good. The next big step is, who do we want to use for this program? Now, the book chose to use people with no emotional attachment, and to, in fact, actively suppress emotional attachment where possible, under the belief that people with no ties would be more willing and able to do what they want. You want to do the exact opposite. According to the book, part of the process is a removal of morals and the very things that would make someone hesitate. Fear, pain, a lot of emotions, and all that stuff. You don't want that. For one obvious reason. First, let's start with the people. And let me run a scenario through your head. Okay. So, I just got implanted with all this government information. And it's horrible, dark secrets. I now know all this, and the government's just let me loose on the world. Well, what am I going to do? If I am a morally upstanding person wanting to do what's right, I would make sure those secrets get out there. Everyone deserves to know, after all. If I were a conniving businessman trying to make a buck, I'd sell them to the highest bidder. Either way, I'd want to give those secrets away for one reason or another, which is the opposite of what the government wants. So, how would a government go to avoid that particular problem? Number 1. Hostages. Hostage. A hostage situation. Not actively, but basically have a gun pointed at your loved ones, or have a gun pointed at the program participants' loved ones at all times. If my loved ones were in danger, I'd be a lot less inclined to give away these secrets. Wouldn't I? Number 2. Restricted movement. One of the big things that happens in this book is everyone goes to live their new lives wherever else they go. But that's a horrible idea. If the information is running in a billion directions that you aren't in, why even have that information? What you should do is maybe have them in several different safe houses at all times. Keep them under protective custody. Just make sure that they don't go out into the world. Also, it is pointless to restrict someone's internet access if they're still allowed access to the rest of the world. In fact, it is completely pointless. And poses an actual legitimate threat. If my enemies can find out about me just by looking at me, and I can't get all the information available about them, I'm kind of screwed. Okay, so that's who to recruit and how to move them around. The last thing on this list is what procedures need to be done to them. I kind of touched on this a little already, but do not restrict their pain or their emotions. They need those. They need fear. Fear is your biggest tool here. You need them scared for their own lives and their loved ones. Because if they're not, they have no reason not to spill their guts. And that's the big key here. You need them to hurt. Which, again, sounds mean, but again, we're not an ethical government here. Okay. So, you're probably wondering, did I just say all that and go through all that theory crafting just to discuss some weird science fiction concepts? Yes and no. The main point of this video was more to point out, why have a concept if you're not going to explore it? The original, the Minder's book that I read, had this concept and mainly used it as an excuse without really giving it any thought at all. I just spent a few minutes thinking about it, and this is what I thought of. But they didn't. And I feel, personally, to put a concept in a story and not actually use it to anything, to have it amount to nothing, to have it be pointless, as is most of the concepts introduced in that book, to be honest. Well, it's just that. It's pointless. If you're gonna write a story, if you're gonna write a book, a movie, or whatever else, you need to incorporate these ideas and use them to their full potential, whatever that may be. If you're going to introduce a concept, explore it. That's all I'm saying. And I hope this video proved enlightening to you if you decided to watch it. And if it did and you've liked it, why not leave it a like? If you want to see more like it, why not subscribe? And more importantly than any of that, why not have a good night?